Hello everyone. Welcome to New Mexi-Cast. If you're watching this on replay, please know that you can share this video even after the fact with your followers, your viewers, or anyone that you think might benefit from it. And you can always give kudos or hearts or thumbs up, and it floats across the screen. It's wonderful for the broadcaster. Also put comments in the comment section. I love to respond. I love to give feedback. If you are going through your own KonMari process, or you know someone that might benefit from this process, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section and I'll respond as much as I can in the middle of my chaos. So what is this that I'm talking about? My name is Rosalinda Roman. I have a TV show here in New Mexico called New Mexi-Cast, and normally I do stories about other people here on my show using my broadcasting skills from back in the day. But right now I'm in the middle of the 90-day countdown to moving my family onto a sailing catamaran. And in order to do that, we have to downsize. Well, downsizing from a home with a family of 5 to a boat is daunting, and I definitely needed some help. In this process, I came to the realization that I really am a clutter collector, and there are boxes of things that are kind of embarrassing to me. Hello, thank you for the thumbs up that just floated across my screen. If you want to put a quick hi in the comments, that would be awesome. Then I would know who is watching. But anyway, so I discovered I have a lot more stuff in boxes in the garage and clutter here and there. So I needed help, and I'm using something called the KonMari method. It's a book by Marie Kondo called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And so far it's been overwhelming but successful. You go through, you take a category of things, you start with clothing, move on to books, and then papers, then you go into miscellaneous items called kimono, and finally sentimental items. So we got through clothing and books, and then came to papers, and I came to a screeching halt. Papers are my problem. A lot of people, I've seen other KonMari people who have gone through it, and they're like, oh, papers are no problem. And I'm like, how is that possible? Because papers are a real problem for me, and I realize I've been carrying boxes and boxes of papers around for every move that I've ever made. So I want to show you, and I was talking to my mom the other day, and she said, well, what exactly do you do with the papers? Like, how are you approaching that, and what do you do with them? And I realized from her question, I had the same question. I read the book, and I felt like it didn't give me enough information for the overwhelming piles of papers. Let me show you what I have here, just to give you a little idea. So these are, you know, papers all over down here. There's papers everywhere, right? And so I kind of felt like, well, what do I do? It tells you to take everything and put it in a pile in the middle of the floor, but then what do you do? You know, it just felt overwhelming still. And I realized it's because I was approaching every paper the same way. Like, I would pick something up and go, oh, okay, yeah, should I keep it? Should I not? Should it spark joy? Well, her premise on papers is you should get rid of everything. And I thought, that's because I was putting all the categories together. So what I did is I realized I needed to break it down even further. And now that I'm doing that, it's helping me so much. So if you're stuck on papers, just know that it's because you have too much in that category. We are not talking about sentimental items. We're only talking about like the school lunch menu from, you know, from your kid's school, or an old credit card statement. The problem for me, and I think for many people, is that those papers that you don't need are mixed in with the papers you don't want to accidentally throw away, right? So here's my system. Let me just make it really bottom line here. Okay, so what I do is I have boxes and bins of where I'm going to put stuff, and I name them so that when I come to a paper in this pile where I pick it up and I go, oh, a hot air balloon flight certificate. So if I feel like, oh, I can toss that, that's fine. But if I'm in doubt, if it even gives me a moment pause or hesitation, then I think, which box of this subcategory do I put it in? So let me tell you what my subcategories are, okay? So we've got, over here, I've got blank notebooks, unprocessed papers, and unprocessed papers is important because there are things you're going to come to in the pile and you're like, oh, I never sent in that warranty, or you know, it's still within the range of when I can do that. If you feel like you still have something that you want to do, put it in unprocessed papers. And then there's blank paper, there's written in journals and notebooks. I have stationery and stamps, and over there is photos. I also have one for, because I'm a mommy, there's one for tattoos and stickers. And there's one for, these are business cards over here, and like gift cards or coupons, gift cards and coupons. Then over here is office supplies. And this is actually a bin that I keep handy because in the process of finding the papers, I'm finding more books and clothing, and I'm already past that category. Hey, Tara Lee. Hey, Mom. How are you guys? I was just breaking down, because Mom, you asked how exactly I'm tackling the papers, so I thought I would share my system. I'm basically putting things, when I get stuck, I realize I need to go into a subcategory, because a lot of papers are mixed in together, sentimental mixed with, you know, stuff that is clearly garbage. Hey, Renata, good to see you. Okay, so those were the bins, most of the bins, and now these are the two most important for my family. This is the discard, and the goal is to have more in there, right? Okay, this is discard over here. Where am I? Okay, so here's my discard pile. And anything that you just pick up and you're like, why do we even have that? Put it in there, that's fine. But if it's something that might be a sentimental thing that, you know, your kid did something, and let's use that hot air balloon flight. Do I want to keep this? I'm not sure right now. I don't really want to think about it. And I can't, if I slow down, I'll get stuck, and then the process it's just sabotaged, right? So I'm putting that in my Keepy box. Now, for us, we call it Keepy because we use an app called Keepy, because it allows me to take a picture of the item, usually kids' artwork, and then not only can the child comment and explain what the meaning was behind that special artwork, but then we get to share it with grandparents and uncles and aunts who don't live in town, and they get to comment and the kids get to see their reaction. So we call it Keepy. You might call that box just, you know, to sort later or sentimental item or something like that. Okay, so those are my categories. Let me just kind of show you, this is how I do this, okay? And it's just me. Everybody's different. And I want you to know this is probably not the traditional way that Marie Kondo would recommend. She probably does want you to just, you know, really make a choice right then and there, but I need a little bit of breathing room, and I don't want to try. I get overwhelmed. I'm almost going to cry even just thinking about it, because you have those feelings of failure, right? When you look at this pile, you're like, I'm terrible at this. So when I find myself doing that, my answer is, it's too much. I'm trying to eat the whole elephant, and I need to break that down, or what is it, eat the whale? So for me, I have to break it down into subcategories because that keeps me moving and I make progress. And then now I have, so I picked this up, like, I'm like, clearly this is an email about taxes from several years ago. Garbage, okay, discard. This was like sentimental. Okay, that goes in Keepy. Oh, this is like an owner's manual, discard. Over here we've got blank, let's see, this is a written in journal. So we're going to just put that in there. I have a pile of photos here that I found in the paper pile. So that's why it's so nice to have these boxes nearby, because then you don't stop and like, oh, look, it's a picture of my daughter. You know, you don't get stuck doing that. So it goes in the photos section. That's basic. That's my basic system. So it's not just, because I think that the papers is the first category that you may really get stuck. Unless you're like crazy book person like me, or you're really into clothes, which some people are. Let's put this up so you don't have to look down at me anymore. There we go, that's better. So unless like you're really into clothing and that was really hard for you, you're really into books, that's really hard for you. For me, it feels like papers is the category where you're gonna kind of slam up against the hardest part of your own clutter problem, if you will, because by pulling out papers, you're going to start finding other things, and you're going to go, oh, why do I have that in that box with that? Obviously that's garbage, and that's a special treasure from my grandma. So you start beating yourself up. So rather than doing that, have a system before you start. Make these boxes so you can just keep moving, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And I found an added bonus. You know how like your friends, if you're ever doing this system, if your friends are like, hey, I'd like to help, you can't really have your friends help you decide if something sparks joy for you. And that's a problem because you want the help, but they can't really do that for you. But they can put things in boxes, in subcategories, and keep things moving. And that is huge. I had a friend come over, she came over for an hour. We sorted 3 boxes from my garage. And all she did is moving things. And she, you know, for her, she's not a clutter collector. So she didn't understand it, but she didn't have to. It was just to help me get them into boxes. Because now when we're done, we're going to take one of these boxes at a time, because that's a category, and we're going to sort through it and go, does this spark joy? Does this spark joy? And then we can move on. So that's my basic system. Let me see the questions really quickly. So are you making sure you shred or burn papers that have identifying info on them? That's a really good policy, probably very, very good policy. Where we live, our stuff goes straight from here to the recycling center, so we recycle it. But yeah, it's probably a good idea. If you have something that has identifying info, you should do that. We have a fireplace, so I guess we could just burn it in there. Let's see. Renata says, I'm good at separating in piles. My hardest is finishing. Right, Renata. I know. That is why. And you know what? And that's why we're so hard on ourselves. Because you're like, you get the momentum, and then you come slamming up, and you don't know what it is that was that emotional trigger that stood in the way of getting this done. It's not, but we all feel that. And then we feel like we're failing, right? And we're not failing. This brings up stuff that a lot of this stuff, I didn't want it to see the light of day. I just didn't. And I didn't even know I had such an issue until like my friend came over, love her, she was very helpful, but she's like, oh, I'm not a clutter collector. And I got like, is she judging me? What does this mean? You know? But then I realized that's not her. She's not judging me. She's just commenting about her own journey. Her journey is nothing about mine. And she's not trying to judge me. And just like my husband, he would get rid of all of it. But that's not my process. I want to honor the things. And that's a big part of this KonMari process, by the way. Honor the things that have served you in your life. You literally, like you might take this, if I decided to get rid of this, let's go back to the balloon certificate, right? If I decide to throw that away, when you're done with it, you say, thank you so much for bringing me joy when I got you. And then you get rid of it. It may sound hokey to some people, but it's all about energy. And if you can work through these roadblocks, it's not just about working through your clutter. It's about working through those things that are holding you back in your life. I really, truly believe that. All right. Speaking of which, I've got to get back at it. I really love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this journey with me. It is not easy. So I will check in as soon as I can with more of the process. And if you guys have questions afterwards, just please post them in the comments section and I'll get to them. And if you want to see something specific about this KonMari process that you're stuck on or confused about, please feel free to put something in the comments and I'll try to address that in a future video. All right, gotta go. Love you guys. Bye. Yes, it is emotional. That is for sure. Bye, guys.